Hey girls, it's Blair
and Carley
from Girl Historians, and we just wanted to check in quickly before the episode to say that today we will be talking about some more sensitive topics than usual.
Yes, this is a bit of a trigger and care warning. It'll be medical ableism.
Yeah, treatment of people with disabilities, etc.
In a bad way.
In a bad way. And the history of that. So while we believe it's important to discuss and cover this in our season on the Kennedys, that this is just a bit of a warning that
might not be for you, and that's totally fine.
You. Might not be for you today. Might be something that you want to read up on before you dive into us talking about it in a more casual way. Totally up to you.
Yep.
But
take care of yourself, and
let's
get into the episode.
See you soon. Let's get into it. Ahoy! Welcome back to Girl Historians.
I'm Carley.
I'm Blair.
And this is the comedy podcast where we talk about history and our girls, coming to you live from my backyard.
From Carley's backyard.
I met my neighbor.
I met your neighbor, which was huge because the lore on that.
I know. I thought for a while that they didn't like me because I've talked about them on the podcast before. I thought they heard.
No way.
I know, but then now it's like finally we're in some good weather moments.
Yeah.
And we've all been out in the garden. We've been chatting.
Beautiful.
They made me a vegan. Is that another bike coming? Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. Okay, that seems fine.
I think we're okay. That sounded like a bell.
Yeah.
There might be little noises and disruptions.
We're in the backyard. They made me a strawberry and rhubarb crumble that was vegan from our rrhubarb.
Oh my
from
God.
The garden. I know. It was very much, I was like, I live in a small town in the 90s.
Oh my God.
I've never been more obsessed. This is community. This is Ohana.
Ohana means family. Have you heard about the new Lilo and Stitch?
I watched it with my mom because I told my mom I didn't want to see it. My mom got really upset because that was one of my favorite movies growing up. So I was like, fucking fine, we'll go see it. I don't really want to see it, but we'll go see it. Oh. And I fucking hated it.
Okay, I wanted to go see it because, again, I love Lilo and Stitch. But, like, I heard about the changes that they made. My girlfriend told me, and she was like, I've never seen the original Lilo and Stitch, which I was like, that's crazy. But she was like, I've watched tons of TikToks about how people are upset about the changed ending. And I'm like, okay, first of all, crazy order of things to engage in TikTok discourse.
I don't know if you should engage in TikTok discourse without knowledge of the source material, but I'm obsessed with that regardless.
Yeah. Interesting move.
Yeah, because I loved it growing up, and I was like, okay, I'm going to rewatch the original before I see the new one, which is a huge mistake because there's not only are there just like changes that are like offensive and I think are bad, there's also just changes that make no goddamn sense.
Okay, what was your take? Because I only read about it.
I just thought it was worse. They cut out stuff like, I don't know how deep into the lore of Lilo and Stitch you are.
I'm for the first movie pretty deep.
Yeah,
they made series.
Yeah,
not as much.
So they made Lilo less poorly behaved, which I hated. I think the joy of Lilo and Stitch is that Lilo is genuinely a menace.
Yeah, she's a little brat. And she's Stitch.
She's Stitch, yeah. And the whole thing is this whole like theme of being like, you're not a bad person, you just behave kind of badly. And you don't know why. And she's also like obviously behaving like a troublesome kid because like her parents are dead.
Yes.
They also had a bunch of stuff of like, they had a bunch of stuff filmed at the Disney resorts in Hawaii.
Oh,
which is like
God.
The whole thing of the original is like these are real people who actually live in Hawaii. It's not just like a vacation home for you to like do whatever you want. They also made, so there's Jumba and Pleakley, who are the two aliens, right? And Jumba's the evil kind of scientist who made Stitch, and then Pleakley's kind of like the government representative.
That is that's played by Kevin McDonald from Kids in the Hall.
Yeah, from Kids in the Hall.
We got there.
And they've cut. Then there's also like this like kind of like general in the original who then when Jumba and Pleakley go to Hawaii to get Stitch back, they do a bad job. So then the alien government sends like this guy to go get them because Jumba and Pleakley kind of get redeemed, which is awesome. Where they're like they join sides with Stitch to get Lilo back. Like they have this whole redemption arc.
They like live with them at the end.
Yes, yeah.
Which is the best part. That's when I start sobbing.
Exactly, because they're kind of a gay couple.
Yes, they're gay.
Happy Pride Month to Jumba and Pleakley
and happy
only.
Pride Month to Jumba and Pleakley.
Exactly.
That is a twink and a bear, am I right?
but yes.
Disney, so, twink and bear representation.
Jumba is Russian, and they just made it Zach Galifianakis with his regular fucking voice.
No!
They also had them have alien cloning technology, so then it was just played by the two actors. It was like, oh, we're gonna, instead of looking like aliens, so we can, you know, so we can blend in. We're gonna just we'll copy human DNA and we'll look like humans, and then they just looked like the actors, which was so annoying because the whole fun thing is it's like Pleakley in like
putting on a wig.
Fucking wig, and then everyone's like, oh my god, are you okay? And then Jumba's like, she's just ugly, don't worry about it. Like there's like a lot of funny stuff with that. Like when I watched the original, I was like, this is genuinely very funny.
She is just very ugly.
Yeah, exactly.
Do not worry.
It's literally that. But they also then make it so that Jumba is the one who basically doesn't get a redemption arc.
Oh, no, sorry.
So I wish. So it's like Pleakley gets a redemption arc, but Jumba is now, they don't have that general coming to get Stitch back.
What?
It's like Jumba doing it so that Jumba doesn't get a redemption arc. Jumba gets like exploded or whatever, which I hate.
No.
They also, of course, you've for sure seen the discourse where it's like Nani is going to the mainland to go to like marine biology school, and she gives Stitch up to like a neighbor and also social services and stuff like that.
And Lilo.
Oh yeah, Lilo. Sorry, more Lilo than Stitch.
Yeah, but also Stitch, which is crazy because like the whole fucking thing in the movie is Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind.
But unless you want to go to San Diego for marine biology school, which I was reading about, and people were also like, why would she just not go to one of the really good marine biology schools in Hawaii? Also, like there's so many good universities in Hawaii.
Also, like, is it so bad that like I thought the message of it was so beautiful too, because like if you're 19 years old and your life is harder than others, you know, you're like disenfranchised in one way or another, like you have parents who have passed, you're responsible for a sibling, stuff like that, like you can have a rewarding, fulfilling life while like keeping your family together, working in a store, like engaging in your community, and like, you know, like I think that those stories are important, not like the only way to have a fulfilling life is
to go to
like,
university,
go to a colonial
institute. It's
education.
So annoying because it is a very colonial view on family of being like put yourself first before family, 100%. Right? And also what I like about the original is this idea of like it's not perfect, which they do hit on a lot.
It's
like
beautiful.
Stitch at the end being like, this is my family, if I did it all on my own. It's little and it's broken, but it's good. Yeah, still good. Openly weeping.
Yeah.
But I like
crying
this
now.
kind of, you know, idea that like, yes, this is not a perfect family. This is not a perfect situation for Nani. Like Nani has to really sacrifice a lot. Yeah. It's a fucking bad, crazy situation, but you can still, things don't have to be perfect for them to be a good, fulfilling life. Yeah. And having her, I hated her going to I hated that so much because it's also this idea of being like, it's so Disney where it's like being empowered as a woman is being a cog in the capitalist machine. I know. I just hated it. Here's what I thought was good as a Lilo and Stitch fan. They brought back, because the director of the first film is the voice of Stitch and has been the voice of Stitch and everything. Yeah. And they brought back him. Cool. Because I think he does some really good, like, there's just really funny Stitch gibberish and delivery. Yeah. My favorite is in the original. Stitch is iconic.
Stitch? Iconic.
My favorite is in the original when he asks Jumba to come and help him get, like, okay, we're fine. I'm just now triggered that my other neighbor's gonna come home, which is fine. But when he asks Jumba to help him get Lilo back, and Jumba's like, "You're asking me to help you after everything you've put me through?" And then Stitch just goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." He goes, "Okay." Like, yeah, I was really happy with that. Aww. The songs are great. Hawaii is beautiful. Like, I know we're not going to Hawaii. I get that. As a white person, I understand. I'm not going to Hawaii. But I'm obsessed with Hawaii. Like, it is so beautiful as a place. I can't even imagine. We talked about it before. It shouldn't be part of the state. That's crazy to me.
No, it should be a sovereign nation.
In the middle of the ocean.
This is like the thing of like, it's crazy to me that like, I was going to say in the past, but I feel like even now people are still fighting over like plots of land in the middle of oceans.
Yeah, I'm like, that's not ours. That's obvious.
Yeah, it's just
this isn't even ours, but like,
you just want military bases. Like,
yes, well, that's literally it.
Just like even Russia trying to own like Nunavut is like, that's
you want
crazy.
Military.
You want to put the military in Nunavut?
All right,
none of it. I'm having none of that.
Yeah, none of it. Yeah.
No.
So
ridiculous.
That's what I've heard. What have you been?
That's basically what I was hearing, and it just made me
fucking furious.
It made me really like honestly more upset than I
was mad watching the movie. I fucking hated it. I was just pissed. I mean, all of it was bad, but I really didn't like. how, like, I feel like if I had a kid, couldn't be me, but happy for y'all.
But if
I would be like, I would love showing them Lilo and Stitch because there's like a real amazing thing of like it's very realistic in a way. It's beautiful, like just looks really amazing. But it's also like I think Lilo being very poorly behaved is important.
No, you never see that. It's always like the sweet, like
sweet
daughter,
little
sassy,
but she's not bad. But like Lilo in the original is like a menace.
Yeah, she's like a bad kid.
Yeah,
and it's sad. Like, you know, like she doesn't. I think I resonated a lot with Lilo and Stitch as a kid too. You know, having like a family that was like very like troublesome and like not getting a lot of stuff that your friends have, and like just feeling so different and like not having friends because of that. Like
totally.
And I'm like, it's sad to lose that at the stake of this kind of like girl boss feminism that like doesn't actually mean any, like it's so empty.
No, it's so empty. And there is something so like you really don't get a lot of representation for kind of like poorly behaved, not bratty, like
just poorly behaved behavioral problems with little girls. And I think it's important to see, because I think you can see that as a little kid and be like, this is still somebody who's the head of like the lead of a movie. Like I am there is still hope for you yet, and you're not a bad person because you behave badly. Yeah.
And yeah, there's a really good Vulture article where they talk about, it's like an oral history of Lilo and Stitch.
Okay.
And it basically was made in their Orlando animation studio, far away from everything like in Hollywood. So they kind of got to just do whatever they wanted. And you can just so tell the loss of that on the new movie. Like you could just
tell it just got noted by executives like over and over.
It was just like every single part of this was put through a focus group to the nines. And like I just like that Lilo is like weird. She's like a weird, shitty kid. And I like that Pleakley and Jumba are a gay couple, odd couple vibes. I like that Stitch is evil. They also don't have Stitch. Like Stitch like pushes Lilo to the ground like so much in the original.
Yeah.
Like Stitch is horrible.
Yeah.
And
he's a monster.
Literally.
Like he's a lab-made monster.
And that's what's so, I think, effective about his story that I loved growing up, is this idea of like, you can think that the way that you are programmed, it is inevitable that you're just going to destroy things and hurt people.
Yeah.
But that doesn't have to be true.
Yeah. That doesn't have to be the way you are always.
Exactly.
And a lot of times I think, especially when it comes to like behavioral issues, and it's interesting too that we're weirdly like on topic with the Rosemary Kennedy episode, but like with girls especially, it's so much understood. Like I think that boys get a lot more space for that.
That's what I mean. Like you never ever see a girl act in the way that I've seen 7,000 representations of little boys in media of being like behaviorally difficult.
Yeah. And I think like Lilo and Stitch, like at least in the first one, is so beautiful because, you know, she's having like behavioral issues and she just really just needed someone to understand her.
Definitely.
Like someone to like sit down and say like, you know, like I feel what you're feeling and like your frustration is my frustration, and like that is the parallel of her and Stitch, which is really beautiful.
Oh, 100%. And they also cut the ugly duckling storyline where like the whole thing is right in the book. If you don't know, in the original movie, he like finds a book in Lilo's room and it's the story of the ugly duckling. And she's like, it's this duckling and he looks really ugly and different. So everybody says that he's wrong and bad because he's different. But then he finds his family and he is accepted or whatever. And then Stitch becomes obsessed with this book and reads this book over and over again. And even when he runs away, like he brings the book with him, which is so cute.
That's so sad.
And it's because, you know, he's like, this orange car is just doing laps.
They're learning how to drive, Carley.
They're not doing a good job. But yeah, what I like about it is just like, you crying?
I'm stuffy, but also I am on the verge of tears.
We'll have our sunglasses on.
Don't look at me.
Yeah, what I like about it so much is that he goes through this journey of understanding that like your found family can really help you. And I love that. Also, a separate beef I have with the new reboot is that they have an Uptown Funk needle drop in the year of our Lord 2025.
I swear to fucking God.
Stitch crashes a wedding at a Disney resort, and it's like...
Wait, so they go to the Disney resort, and it says, like, Disney resort?
No, but it's like they spend so much time at these resorts, and I was like, why are they at resorts
Why are they at resorts, period?
And then I was like,
it's the Disney resorts.
It's the Disney resorts.
That is so weird.
Where it's like, yeah, Lilo goes to the resorts and goes in the hot tub every morning. That's like a part of of her like routine when she's kind of left to fend for herself. Stitch, when he gets sent to Hawaii, immediately crash lands and immediately just like fucks up a wedding at a resort. Jumba and Pleakley spend so much goddamn time, like they don't like do stakeouts anymore. They're just like at a Disney resort in a room. It's
the location
crazy.
scout quit like 3 days before filming, and they were like, well, fuck.
I guess we're just gonna do it in the Disney
we gotta
resort.
do everything at the Disney resort.
But an Uptown Funk needle drop in the year of our Lord 2025.
I remember when Uptown Funk came out, and the first 5 days I think were some of the best of my life.
Well, that song is great.
It's amazing. But like when it first dropped, it was like, and I remember thinking, I was like, I'm living in the moment where like I'm trying to think of like when Shout came out before it became a wedding song.
Yeah.
I'm living in that moment. I need to bask in
the
this
moment, in the beautiful
because it's
moment.
going to become a thing that gets needle dropped in the terrible Lilo and Stitch live remake.
Yeah.
Damn, rest in peace, Bruno Mars.
Rest in peace, Pleakley.
Have I ever told you about my friend's cousin who
who fucked you? I think about it all the time because in a way, like, he was right. Because he said to her, like, you just fucked Bruno Mars.
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, who? But, like, in a way,
yeah,
he was right. Like,
yeah, like, it was like they were having sex and during it, he was like, just so you know, you're having sex with Bruno Mars.
It was before he was
She
famous.
was like, okay.
Like, she didn't know who he was.
And then he got famous and she was like, oh my
fuck,
God,
it's Bruno Mars.
I fucked Bruno Mars.
It's crazy
King.
that the reveal that he's not black is crazy to me.
He's like Filipino, isn't he?
Yeah.
I never thought he was black. Can I be so honest?
Well, that's good for you. That's because you grew up in a multicultural city.
Yeah, sorry. I actually am really good at guessing people's like specific country of origin, which is a terrible, terrible skill to have as a white woman. It's not something you ever can really flex without seeming
really
fucking weird.
Really racist and weird. Yeah.
But I am quite good at it.
That's cool.
And I think it's honestly, I think it's progressive.
Because you're just interested in where people are from. You're not interested in the idea of race. You're like, where are you from? Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you were like, let me guess everyone's race here or where they're from, I'd be like, Blair, you can't. We had a fun weekend.
I had one of the funnest weekends on record for my damn ass.
That's amazing.
Quite frankly. We went, okay, wait, what did I do?
What did you do on Friday?
On Friday, I went and saw my friend in a play.
Oh, right.
And it was Dangerous Liaisons. Jess McQueen was the lead. She was amazing.
Obsessed.
Look her up on Instagram and follow her. Jess McQueen. She's a star.
Obsessed.
It was amazing. And then after that, just went for some drinks and then went home. And then on Saturday, I had this like street-wide garage sale that my street does, which is very fun. And then that night, I hung out with a bunch of the actors from the show I just did.
Yeah, which you can probably announce, right? Like it's been announced.
Okay,
right?
yeah. It's called Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen.
Woo!
You can look it up. But, you know.
Camilla Marone of
Daisy Jones and the Six was in it. And guess what? I'm not going to say anything about it, just in case. I'm not going to comment on anyone I did or did not meet on that set.
Yeah,
but
everything was normal.
Yeah, it was a wild experience, though. I don't have a very big part or anything, but... And they might have cut me entirely. You never know with the
that's
film.
The hard thing is you never, ever know. You could be like, this could be like, oh my God, this character's iconic, everyone loves her.
Yes.
Or it could be just like, you don't exist and there's literally no way to know.
Yeah, they actually just cut me entirely from it, and we'll never know until it comes out next year.
Exciting.
But that's what it
I can't wait.
I know. I'm pretty interested to see what it is. It's horror. It's not like comedy.
But that's awesome.
Yeah. So we'll see it was a very crazy experience. When it comes out, if you guys are still listening to the podcast,
we should do a watch along.
Yeah, I can probably do like a bit more of a tell all, or tell at least what I saw.
Tell what I can.
Wasn't all, not even close to all. Yeah. I was 18 on the call list. If that gives you an idea of where I was
that's
on
pretty
this.
good.
It's
a huge
not
cast.
Bad.
No,
yeah, the call list was
also
like,
being number one on the call sheet. Can I be so fucking for real? Is overrated. Like that's way too much pressure.
Did you hear on Hudson and Rex the dog is number one on the call sheet?
Which is fucking amazing. And that's correct.
As he should be.
And that's correct.
And as he should be. The dog should always be first on the call sheet because
Hudson
if the dog's
and
not there,
Rex
you're fucked.
Is a Canadian cop show where a dog and a man solve crimes.
Except the dog and the man have both left the show.
The dogs left the show?
Yeah.
Who's on the show?
A different person and I guess
dog?
a different dog.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm passing this on from information I learned the other night. But yeah, we went there and then went to karaoke and at this like Legion Hall, and it was actually the most fun I've had in a night out. And then I met up with you and a bunch of other people.
Yeah, we all went to Owl's Club.
Yeah, so it
was
was
like a Legion, like what Blair said, like it's like a Legion
in Toronto,
where it's like a veterans hall, but it's not really for veterans. Like,
but you can't wear a hat.
Okay.
It was so much fun.
It's just a regular bar that you can't wear a hat in, basically.
Yeah.
It was such a vibe. I had such a fun time there. Reese was in Ottawa, so it was really when the cat's away, the mouse will play. I.e., I didn't want to go home.
Well, I was saying to Brendan the other day, I was like, I've never seen Carley stay to last call at anything.
Yeah, well, because you didn't know me before. Like, this was a very pre-pandemic. I really shut it down every fucking weekend. But also, that was
we'll
when
get
I
you back there.
Yeah, but that's also when I was doing cocaine, so I don't associate it with good
Having
times.
Fun. Yeah. You're like, this is dark. I wish I went home hours ago.
Yes, exactly. And even like when I went home after we went out, I was like, I kind of wish I didn't drink that much and just stayed out. Because I do need to drink to stay out late, to be honest, which isn't like a great thing, but I do need to drink. And I think
that's pretty common and
by drink,
feeling.
I had 2.5 beers. Like, let's be real.
Right.
I had 2.5 beers. But I don't really drink, so like I was drunk. But like the next day was kind of a wash for me. Like I didn't do anything, so I was just kind of like I wasn't even really hungover. I was just like tired.
Mm-hmm.
But that was fun. But I had a lot of fun. Yeah, I showed up. We did beer, and then our friend Sachin was there. And he was already so drunk. He showed up to like the show fairly drunk. And then on the subway ride over, I'm really bad at telling when people are drunk.
Yeah.
Because my dad doesn't really drink and my mom, my dad doesn't drink. My dad's sober, but like my mom would drink but wouldn't really get drunk. So I wasn't around drunk people growing up.
Yeah.
So like my dad has like basically like a GPS signal for telling how drunk everyone is at any given moment.
That's so funny.
Yeah, like he can just tell like exactly how drunk someone is, where
That's
I can't
impressive.
at all. I know. So we were on the subway ride over to the Legion's Hall, and Sachin like almost fell down on the subway, and I was like, "Oh, are you okay?"
Are you drunk?
It didn't even cross my mind. And then we showed up, and it was so much fun.
That's so funny.
I'm obsessed with that place.
I know.
It's the best bar in the entire world. There was a 65-year-old, like butch lesbian, just tearing it up on the dance floor. It was iconic.
It's
People
amazing.
were singing the craziest karaoke songs. Everyone was playing darts.
Yeah, the darts game goes crazy there.
I know, and I've never played, and I didn't know that with darts you didn't just hit the bullseye as much as you could.
I thought that too. Yeah,
I was like, what do you mean you're not supposed to hit the bullseye right now? You should always be trying to hit the bullseye.
I know. We were doing some type of darts thing because I was in between the actors and the comedians. Really, I was
bi.
I was bi that night.
Yeah.
In a big way, and we were doing some version where you started like at 100 and then you counted down.
Yeah,
and I was like,
yeah.
This is fucked.
Crazy.
I don't understand this at all. Period. Like,
but yeah, this happened because our good friend of the pod, Brendan, just texted the group and texted a bunch of people. It was like, we're going to this bar tonight at 10:30. Be there.
Yeah,
and everyone was like, okay.
He also like so I wanted to go to Owls. That was my thing.
Okay,
because I missed it a couple of weeks ago
for Andy's birthday.
Yeah, for Andy's birthday. And so I was like, I want to go to Owls. I put in a few group chats, and then Brendan was like, no. And then Brendan the next day starts texting everyone, Owls tonight,
10:30, and he made a graphic like on Facebook. Like, you know, he can make like those Facebook graphics, and it was like a man on a horse.
It was Paul Revere.
It was Paul in the background, and then it just said Owls Club tonight at 10:30.
Yeah, and posted it in a Facebook group of like 300 people.
And none of them came.
No one showed up.
Yeah. But this is just to say, if you ever want to hang out with your friends,
you should go to Owls Club.
You should just message them and say, everybody, we're going to this place tonight. And everyone came.
That is the hack. Whenever people are like, how do you get people together? It's like, you just have to decide what you're doing. And just do it unabashedly. Like, if you're like, I am going to, you know, the bar tonight. It's not like, does anyone want to go to the bar? It's like, I'm going to be at the bar.
Y'all can come if you want.
You have to get used to the risk.
I know. I feel like I don't have the influence, though. Like, I feel like if I was like, let's go to the bar tonight.
Yeah.
People wouldn't come in the same way.
But you just have to have
the
one person who is like a rider. You have to have one kind of rider with you.
Yes, I agree. You need to have a couple of influential, so you're like flipping the vote in a way. Like, you have a couple people then who are like, yeah, I'll come.
You have to have the person where like you put it in the group chat and you say like, this tonight, Queens, and then you text, like I would text Carley and be like,
say
yes.
Can
you respond and say you're coming? and then Carley goes, yes.
And then, you know, the tide starts to turn.
Yes, exactly. So that's how you do it. That
was a lot of fun. I Ubered home with Sach and Ben. And
fun.
And I was like, we're gonna take. Oh, I didn't tell you that Sachin rolled into the street.
You rolled into the street?
No, I didn't. He rolled into the street. I have to tell you this story. So we were outside smoking. This is before we were Uber home. This was just like when we went outside to have a smoke. Weed, but also they were having cigarettes. But I was smoking weed.
You were having weed.
And Matt and Margaret show up in an Uber. And the Uber pulls up to the side of the road, like literally right in front of us. So like they come up and we're like, oh, whatever. And Matt goes to lift me up, and he lifts me up really high. And then I guess Margaret tried to lift Sachin up as a joke. And then she couldn't do it. So he fell on top of her. So they both fell onto the sidewalk and then rolled off of the curb into the road. And I just heard somebody behind me go, "Oh, that's not safe." And Sachin also had a full beer in his hand.
No.
And it just spilled beer all over himself. That's
really funny.
It was really, really funny because I didn't even see what happened. We just looked and saw them roll into the road. Like, dangerous. Like, you know when you hear people tell stories about people doing crazy things when they're drunk and they die, and you're like, how does that even happen?
Yeah.
I was living that.
Oh, baby.
But that was so much fun. And then we Ubered home. We went back in, obviously, whatever. And then it was last call. They flipped the fluorescents on us. Jesus.
The one great thing about this place that I do actually really appreciate, which sometimes I hate it, but I think it's a good thing overall, is that their last call is 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Which kind of prevents it being like late and weird and you're too drunk and your friends
you're just like let's
too
go
high.
Home. Yeah.
You're like, you know what? Yeah.
This is when the night should end.
I think the night should go one of two ways.
You're either out until the morning or you're going home at 1.
You're watching the sunrise with your friends being like, wow, I can't believe this is life. Or you're like, it's 1 a.m., time to go.
Yeah, I really appreciated that because even though I was tired and kind of wrecked the next day, I didn't feel like bad. I feel like if I stayed another hour, I would have gotten another beer, and then 3.5 beers, I'm fucked, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, we rode home, and then Ben will walk from my house because he likes to walk home because he's a man, so he can do that.
Yeah.
Can't relate.
Loves to walk.
He loves a walk after a night out.
Yeah.
And we just stood on the corner out like the sidewalk in front of my house and talked about the Hunger Games for simply an hour before he went home. So I was like, you have to read the new Sunrise on the Reaping. It's crazy.
I have to start it also. I said I would and then I
read.
didn't. But yeah, because we have to book club it.
We're going to book
for
club
the
it, guys.
Patreon. So I got to get on
Sorry,
that.
There's scum on the microphone.
Hey, don't talk about the microphones like that.
There was a little something gross on it. I don't know what it was. Probably my own spit, but whatever.
Awesome.
But it was a lot of fun. It also made me be like, I do want to go out. In the summer, I'm like, I'll go out a bit more. You know,
Yeah.
Fringe is coming up. I want to close it down a bit.
Yeah. I was saying this to someone recently, and like, I think I kind of gave them the wrong impression of what I was talking about, but I'm going to tell the podcast because I know the
You
girls
guys will get it,
understand.
yeah.
You'll get it. But like, I want to have a summer of going out.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, and I don't mean like going out, like getting hammered, like going to the club, whatever. It's just like, I want to do more just like activities that are like, not
agree.
even like fully organized, but it's like going to that karaoke night is great. You know
I want to
what I mean?
stay.
Yeah,
I
like,
want to stay out.
I want to stay at things. I want to commit to things. I want to be like, it's Saturday night, all right for fighting. Like, you know, like
I agree.
we're going to the bar.
I agree. I want to go to the bar. Like, and even and a lot of our friends don't really drink anymore. Like, it feels like sobriety is very in, which I love. And it's like you can still go out and not really drink and close it down and have a good time. A lot of people there like had like one beer, but we're just like vibing out. And I like that. And I also liked going out after shows because like all of our friends are comedians. So it's like on a Friday or Saturday, like a lot of people have places to be, but like being like show up at like 10:30 or after your show or after your birthday party that you're going to or whatever. And everyone kind of did
for 2 hours
and then come and hang out.
I know, and I really want to like. I want to learn what it's like to go out without getting like as drunk as possible being the goal.
Yeah.
Because I also like, I am a believer, like I've worked in bars for years and years. So it's like, it is kind of shitty if like the whole bar isn't drinking at all and no one's
of course.
paying into the institution, which is something that like sobriety is great, but I think that a lot of people associate it with like not patronizing the bar.
You have to get drinks.
Yeah, you have to get drinks, even if it's not beer.
I agree.
You have to get like a non-alcoholic beer.
Get a non-alcoholic
beer. You have to get like a juice.
Get a juice. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I would not feel comfortable not going to a place and not because you're paying to play.
100%. And I think people don't realize that sometimes. And I don't mean to sound like an asshole, but it's like, if you want to go to these places where like you can be more sober, you still have to, like, it's even more important that you buy things.
Yeah, it's the same thing as working at a coffee shop. Like, you just have to buy stuff if you're going to work at a coffee shop for 5 hours. You have to buy stuff to stay there.
Yeah, you can't just log. But so I want to learn kind of what that feels like, of like how to go out and feel like you're having like a really great time, because like I feel like so much of my life it was just like, okay, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
drunk as fuck.
As drunk as I can possibly get.
Yeah, I want to be able to stay late without drinking a lot. Like, because that's the thing. It's like I find it hard to stay sometimes if I'm sober, because also it's so fucking loud. Like, it's these places are so loud and so crowded where it's like if I'm not, I have to be a little bit kind of like in a mood to enjoy it, but I don't need to. I can just have like one beer. You know what I mean?
Yes. I think that is
because I had a
true
great time. I had a lovely time.
I also think that this is why wine I think is going to make a resurgence.
And
for
I
me in
famously
a big way.
love a SoCap wine.
I love a SoCap.
We do comedy at like maybe one of the shittiest establishments in the entire world. When I order a soda there and they use the nozzle, I'm like, can you not use?
Don't touch the nozzle.
Like, don't put because like it is just like a rancid bar. But if you order a wine there, it's a Jackson Trigg. It's like truly like the most $7 bottle of wine you've ever heard. But it's just so great before a show because it's the perfect level. Of your. If I have it when I need to be a little drunk to perform, because sometimes if I'm really really tired and I know I'm gonna be
a
bad,
little bit drunk.
I'll have a drink before to just like get in the headspace that I need to be in if I'm super super tired. And a wine is perfect for that because it gets you drunk, but you don't get drunk.
Yes.
Like you get a little, it's the perfect,
you just get kind of warm and fuzzy.
You get warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
Whereas like if I have a full beer or if I have like a gin and soda and it's time to go on, I'm like, oh no.
No, I went to
gin will get me there. Like gin will get, I'm higher than a motherfucker.
I feel like that's very like British woman of you because I feel the same way about gin where I'm like, I feel like I'm connecting ancestrally to like a really bitchy woman. Who's got the bottle of gin.
Yeah, I'm connecting to a barmaiden from the past. She's like, hello, love, what will we get you?
Oh, I'm connecting to like London 1902. Like not even that far.
Yeah.
Like just
but you're still there in a big
angry.
Pissed.
For what reason?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
You guys good?
I don't know. It's going to be so interesting
to see how much of the birds,
and see how much bird action is really.
Because if you're not hearing any of it, there's simply so much. They're eating at my bird feeder. They're chirping.
Yeah, they're talking to each other.
They're
really making
do
family
talk
plans.
To each other. It's really beautiful if you sit back here and just watch the birds. It's like it's sparrows. So it's house sparrows, and there's a different kind of sparrow as well. But they're like the little brown birds.
I love.
And
they
really just move as a unit. They always talk to each other. It's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, what's up?
Let's talk.
Let's talk, girl. But yeah,
Belle,
to cap
talk.
it all out, Belle, let's talk about mental health.
It's time, guys.
Like today. But yeah, I think like just learning how to go out and just be excited for the going out and not for the like getting super drunk is like
agreed.
Brendan being sober has really inspired me in that way because like he's the biggest drinker I know.
I know.
And having him like
when
goes
he invited
out
us, I was like, he's off the wagon.
No.
I know. And then I
showed
up and he just had a bubbly in his hand and I was like, okay.
Yeah. He's actually like way more fun now that he's sober.
He's so present.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Really crazy. He's so clear-eyed.
I know.
And just like will connect with you and look at you in the eyes. It's really a beautiful thing.
It's really I'm really really proud of him. Not to get sappy on the pod, but like it's really inspired me. I don't think I need to go sober at this point. I think I've done a lot of work to fix my relationship with alcohol, but I'm doing 2 weeks of sobriety until I have an event coming up that I know I want to drink.
I think that's all you really need to do, unless you're like, okay, guys, chill.
I love when the birds fly into the bush and then they kind of blend in with the bush.
Yeah, and they're just like chatting in their house. I eat the bush.
Carley, should we get into painting?
Yes.
Should we just go? I actually would be so down to go to the park and just like paint.
I know. I'm so bad at visual art. I'm really, really bad at it, but that would be fun. I would like to learn.
You must know because you've got a good eye for design.
But I can't follow through. Like I like things that I can think of them in my head and do them. I cannot really like draw or paint or anything.
But I feel like you could do those like scribbly, like millennial style drawings.
I could.
Everyone can do those.
Everyone can do
and
those.
They're cute.
And that's fun. And it's not to be good. It's not like the only thing you're not just doing stuff to be good. You know, you're doing stuff just because like
to feel joy.
Exactly.
I love doing things to feel joy.
Yeah. The thing I was saying about sobriety was just I think like you can really just strengthen your relationship with alcohol by just like not drinking for like a month or a couple of weeks, and then because it's just being able to kind of not be like it's a thought to drink as opposed to just being like, well, obviously I'm going to. It's a given.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So I'll do that. I really don't drink in the winter because it makes me so depressed, which is kind of a gift in its own way because it means I just can't. But in the summer when it's sunny, like I'm like I want to be in the park.
Well, when I was like 21 too, like I would get wasted at night, be still drunk in the morning, go to like class for 6 hours, then start drinking again at like 5 p.m. And it was nothing. And in between that, I'm smoking massive amounts of weed. And I'm like,
but you have a really strong body though too, because I feel like I could never do that because I would just throw up.
I was throwing up, girl.
Oh, okay.
Girl, I was throwing
You're
up.
Like, nope, don't worry, I was.
It was truly like there was a year where I threw up every single night I went out.
That's insane, girl.
Yeah, it was not good.
I feel like all of my party animal friends really have kind of, it's so interesting seeing them kind of grow up because I was having dinner with my friend Lake, like my childhood best friend, and she was like a crazy partier. Like this girl, no girl loves to party more. Also the kind of girl that like will find cocaine.
Oh,
which is
God.
you as well. But like you'll go out and they'll just be like, I found it. And I'm like, how did you find it? And they're like, this is
Someone
my
does-
stranger. They find a stranger.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how
That's
do you
cocaine.
know that they're the one? Like, it's very fun. She's like
there's
so
a lot.
chill now. Like, she's just
Yeah.
like doesn't really drink at all. Or if she does, she's like, it's only when I'm going out or whatever. And it's so funny to see these like party
funny.
animals kind of chill a bit, you know, like being like, it's interesting to see your friends mature.
Yeah. It also is just like, it's more fun to party when, like, not to be so annoying about it, but it's so much more fun to party when you're mindful about it.
Yeah, I
don't
agree.
Because you can still get absolutely sloshed if you plan around it and you make sure you're like safe and in a good headspace and around people that you feel comfortable
Definitely
doing that with.
You don't
like-
need to be dangerous.
Yeah, because I do think that, like, you know, food and wine are some of the great joys of life, and you
I
should be able
agree.
to enjoy the wine portion of it without, you know, ruining your dopamine supply.
Agreed.
I'm going to get into doing Molly next.
I really want to do more mushrooms this summer.
I will do mushrooms with you truly whenever you want.
Okay, now that the weather is nice, it feels like we're back there. I was like, I'm not going to do it. I can't not
No,
do
in the
it when
winter, it's hard.
No, I just don't have the constitution. Like, I
Yeah.
would just get depressed. Whereas, like, in the summer, I'm like, go to a park, hang out. I'm also really going to tear up the Fringe tent this year.
I'm
I've
so mad that they
decided.
moved the Fringe tent.
I know,
That's-
because I'm going to be there doing Fringe. I'm like, well, I'm just going to be there all day, so I might as well.
I'll come.
Yeah, I'll text
I'll
you when
come
I'm
hang
doing
out.
it. Yeah, come hang out. At
I'll
least you
come
can
hang
just take the fucking, or I
out.
guess if you move. But you could just, can't you just take the streetcar over?
Yeah.
Which is at least nice.
Oh, I have to move this summer. Which
Crazy.
is terrible. It's good.
Exciting in the long run.
Exciting
but-
in the long run. I hate looking for
Oh,
apartments.
it's so stressful.
I've been messaging some, and this morning I got 5 different phone calls from real estate agents.
Real
like,
estate agents.
Yeah, just who like got my number, I guess, when I messaged them, and instead of like responding to me on email like I asked, they phoned me.
That's insane. No, that's crazy.
Also, like,
No.
so many people are so rude, and the gall of some of these landlords. There's a couple that I've seen where they're like, we want screenshots of your banking app.
Be fucking real.
Be so fucking for real right now. Like, in what world is that even safe to do?
No, that's exactly, like, that's just a scam.
I wouldn't send that to any of my friends. Like, are
No.
you fucking kidding? The gall of these people, I swear to
I
God.
know. It's insane. And I feel like they're getting crazier because now, kind of post pandemic a bit, like, the rental market is stabilized a bit more. Like, they used to
Yeah.
live in such a landlord's kind of haven where they could do whatever. And
No,
it still is.
it's a renter's market.
But it's a
right
renter's
now.
market
Yeah.
right now. So for some reason, they're acting crazier.
Well, yeah, it's really weird too, where I'm just like, okay, truly, like, one place that is near me that I'm really interested in, it's been vacant, and I know it's been vacant. It's been vacant for 4 months. Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, they haven't, whatever, the rent is almost $3,000. So they've lost out on like over $10,000 worth of this money
Yeah.
from this place, right? Like, it's just eating money. And I messaged and I'm like, oh, like, would you be interested in renting for August 1st? And the guy responds, it'll depend on the strength of the tenant profile.
Girl, what do you mean?
What do you mean tenant
Also,
profile?
y'all good?
They're having a good time. They're happy you're here, Carly. The birds
Yeah.
are celebrating.
The birds are celebrating me outside.
The birds
yeah,
are
that's
celebrating.
but here's what I don't understand about that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't they just want money? Do you know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, why do you care who it comes from?
Why do you care? And that's the beauty of the past is like, as long as I'm paying rent, why does it matter if I'm a criminal? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. If you get your money at the end of the day, and I'm
Why
not
do
like
you care?
shooting bullet holes into your wall, why
Why
you
does it
care
matter?
who I am or how I get money?
Because also you should be able to live in a place even if you are a criminal. Like, sorry,
Criminals
like,
need homes.
yeah,
I don't know. Criminals are some of the great contributors to society.
yeah.
Sometimes they're criminals, but it depends how Robin Hood they are
This
on the
is what
Robin
I'm
Hood
saying.
scale.
Yeah, on the Robin Hood scale.
Of drug dealer to white collar.
Yes.
But anyway,
Should we talk
Let's
about the
get-
saddest thing in the entire world? I
Yeah,
want to
let's
see if I
take
can
a
show
little
the
break.
camera the bird feeder.
yeah, that's beautiful. We'll take a break.
You guys seeing this?
And if you're on video during the break, you can look at the bird feeder.
should I zoom in?
This is really beautiful.
Do you guys see my bird feeder? You like it?
Okay, so let's get into it.
Brace yourselves.
Today we are talking about Rosemary Kennedy.
Guys, it's going to be a laugh out loud
It's
episode.
going to be a laugh out loud episode. And
Not at all depressing.
yeah, as we said in the trigger warning, it's very sad. If you're not in the place to listen to it, that's totally fine and okay. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
I think you're right what you had said before of like, we do just simply have to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I feel a kind of way of like, and I feel this online in general. Like, there's just certain things I don't want to talk about because I'm a comedian, right? Like, my job is to entertain, and there's stuff that I'm like, well, I don't want to joke about this. But with something like the podcast, where the idea is to give a holistic view of this time in history, like, bad stuff happens, and we need to talk about them, even if that means like tonally it's going to be kind of a weird episode where we're not joking as much.
Well, and it's also like, it reminds me of the Catherine Howard episode too, where it's like, you know, some things are just like simply sadder than others, and if the MO of this podcast is to kind of learn about things in a casual way that doesn't feel like intellectually like hierarchical or whatever, you have to have a degree to understand it, like, that's anyway, going into that, it's a sadder one.
Yeah. I mean, but we did do the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, which was fucking depressing as all hell. So, I think it's good that we're doing it, even though I'm dreading it a bit. Not dreading it in the way of like I don't want to do it, but it's dreading it just the way of being like, all right,
I know, writing the script, it was extremely sad.
Yeah.
So Rosemary Kennedy was born on Friday, the 13th of September in 1918. I wrote that down maybe like a week and a half ago and just clocked that Friday the 13th.
Yeah, that's kind of wild.
So she's born in Brookline, Massachusetts, where the Kennedy family was living at the time. She was the third child and the first girl. So she's after JFK.
Yeah, so it's
Joe
Jack
Rosemary.
Okay.
Really covering the parental names right in one fell swoop.
Let's just get them all out of the way, and then we can go. Then we can do kick.
We can do kick.
Yeah,
Bobby, kick, Bobby, kick. So this was in 1918. So it is like the high time in the Spanish influenza, which kills tons and tons of people. If you're unaware, including,
I don't know about you, but I'm done with the Spanish flu. That's how they started out the Great Gatsby musical when they started, and they had Jeremy Jordan take off his KN95 and be like, "I'm done with the Spanish flu." And everyone was like, "Boo."
That is really interesting.
Yeah, people did not like it. It did not make it to Broadway. That definitely got cut in between the workshop and Broadway.
Came up with that idea.
I don't know about you, but I'm done with the Spanish flu.
I was thinking about this today because, again, I'm still threatening to start a Substack at any moment. But I'm like, I do think that we are like truly maybe about 6 months away until we start unpacking what COVID did to our brains.
Yeah. I agree. It feels like we're almost there.
Yeah, because we haven't done it at all. We're just kind of acting like we're all like, that was a kooky time.
Remember Tiger King?
Remember Tiger King?
I don't have any mental illness because
Carol
of that,
Baskin killed her husband.
Right? Oh my God, Carol Baskin killed her husband. I'm fine though.
I'm fine.
But I'm personally fine.
I'm fine. No, like people who are like, oh, like how do I relearn an attention span? I'm like, oh my God.
I know, that's dark, man.
Darkness. So the Spanish flu kills 20 to 50 million people worldwide, including Edward Cullen. Yes, am I right this time?
Yes, but then he lives in a huge way.
In a huge way because he becomes a vampire.
Oh, yeah.
So the doctor attending the birth was delayed, trying to serve like other patients. And the story goes that during Rose Kennedy's labor, the baby's head was emerging. So Rosemary's head was emerging, and the attending nurse / midwife told Rose to keep her legs clamped together and prevent birthing the baby until the doctor arrived.
So kind of preventing oxygen to get to the baby's head or whatever?
Yeah. And so according to this like family governess, Rose followed these instructions for like 2 hours of like clamping her legs to keep the baby inside. This is an interesting story because when I read this story, I was like, well, that's terrible and explains everything. But then I was watching this YouTube video by this like doctor who did this really interesting. I pulled a lot of stuff from this video about Rosemary Kennedy, where he was saying that like it is almost unbelievable that any medical professional would do that.
Yeah.
Considering also that like midwives and nurses attend hundreds of births and often without a doctor present.
Yes, yeah.
And Rose's pregnancy was like uneventful. Like it was a very normal, healthy pregnancy. So there was no real reason to
wait for the doctor. Yeah. Like,
and so he was hypothesizing, and I am a little bit like, yeah, that would make sense that like this story kind of got pushed as to kind of like relieve any type of like genetic failure from the Kennedy.
Yeah, the Kennedys
clan.
why would the Kennedys? Okay, sorry, wait 1 second. I'm going so far back. The chair, just like you're talking about this horrible sad thing, and I'm reclining.
Carly's reclining. kicking the laptop.
I know. Okay, we're back. We're back, and we're back, and
we're back in a huge way. So, could the story be true? Absolutely. Preventing oxygen.
But I think what you're saying reads true to me, of this idea of being like, there's such a focus, especially at that time, and especially with a kind of this idea of like this familial like dynasty, like the Kennedys, of being like, I mean, and that you saw that even with like Joe Jr. being like obsessed with eugenics and Hitler or whatever. This idea of like blood being kind of pure, us being the chosen ones genetically. And the Kennedys have such a focus on like athleticism, smart. They love to sail and play sports, but they're really smart. So it's like,
building Camelot.
Of course, you would be blaming anything. It's the same thing as like when people say that vaccines cause autism, and you're like, okay, like first of all,
no. Autism just comes up. It
normal. Just happens.
To have intellectual differences.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. I don't want to discount the story because, again, like I'm not nearly researched enough in this to make any real claims on either side.
It's important to note that both sides of the thing, kind of like that yes, this could have happened, but also historically speaking, within the context of history, it's not unheard of for people to just make up a story to kind of like relieve them of any kind of like genetic predisposition towards an intellectual difference.
Yeah, like this couldn't have just happened without something like horrific happening at the expense of also women who are famously never the people giving birth or helping give birth.
No.
They were like, we have to wait for the man to get here. It's just kind of like interesting. It's good to take it with a grain of salt, I think is my point.
Yeah, I mean, anything could have happened. I thought you were going to say
100%.
even that like maybe the Midnight Wife didn't say it, but like Rosemary wanted the doctor to be there. So she kind of like held it, and like there's anything could have happened.
Anything could have happened, and the point is that like
nothing is anyone's fault. Like sometimes shit happens.
Holding, and honestly, if it did happen, that is agonizing and traumatizing.
Oh yeah.
To hold a baby in for 2 hours.
But like when women
insane.
experience pain in a medical sense, it's not real. So actually, she's fine.
Yeah,
she's having woman troubles. I don't know if you know that.
She's having women troubles, aka her period, and she's being a bitch.
it's so harrowing, man.
Women troubles.
Yeah.
So Rosemary Kennedy is then born. It's clear pretty early on that she's developmentally delayed. She's just like simply not hitting benchmarks as fast as she should be. At 2 years old, she's still struggling to sit up and crawl, whereas like most babies are doing that around 12 months kind of thing.
I didn't speak until I was 2.
That's crazy. Now you're making up for it every damn day.
I know.
Chatting my damn ear off.
I'm gabbing.
Gabbing.
But then it turns out they had me like studied. Look at the hawk.
Whoa.
Things are happening out here, guys.
Holy shit.
They found out that it's just because I was around other kids that were really chatty. So I was actually just listening.
Whoa.
Because as soon as we moved, they were like, she's normal.
Yeah.
Not the normal, but you know what I mean.
You were being an active listener.
I was just listening.
You were just being a good goddamn friend.
Exactly. I don't know what the fucking problem was. But yeah, my parents told me that like very recently, and I was like, what?
That's crazy.
They're like, yeah, we were worried.
That's crazy. I was talking at a normal time, I think. I was a very like normal
You give
baby.
normal baby.
But then I was hyperlexic, I think.
What's that?
I think where like you read like too much.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of dyslexia.
But what is it? Why is it bad?
It's
if it's a thing, you know what I mean? Like, what is the point of it?
I don't even know. I just like when I read it, I was like, oh, that was definitely me. It's like when you read at a high level that like it like your ability to read things like outruns your understanding of it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. I didn't have that, but Reese definitely had that. Reese would be like, oh yeah, well, I mean, I read Crime and Punishment when I was 12.
No, I was the same.
I was like, what? And he was like, well, like, I read it, but I didn't really understand it, but like, I read it.
Yeah. Like, you read it. Like, I understood the words. I strung it together, but like,
Did it
concepts,
hit? I don't know.
Yeah. And like, I remember even clocking it. Like, I remember like getting to being like, well, I can read this book easily and I'm reading through it fast.
Yeah.
But like, I can't comprehend it.
Yeah.
Like, just because I don't know enough about the world because I'm 8.
Yeah, of course. Well, you know, I had minor dyslexia that my parents cured by just forcing me to read.
That's really funny.
I love being raised in the 50s, by the way. They were just like, you're going to read until you learn.
Yeah.
And now it is weird. Like, my brain can
better.
just kind of guess, even if things get moved around.
Yeah.
My brain's just good at guessing, being like, well, that's what it is.
So they did fix you.
Yeah. So guys, if you have dyslexia, just try harder.
Just try harder. No one wants to work these days.
No one wants to. The thing that's sick is no one wants to work these days.
No one wants to work these days.
Sorry, you guys didn't have parents that cared. In parentheses, forced you to read until you learned.
Damn, that's dark.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, sorry.
Poor baby.
I'm sorry. I'm having like everything.
an
My
allergy
sinuses are
moment.
not.
No.
I also was sick last week, so like all of my everything's coming out of my orifices right now. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to know more than that.
Yeah, but like everything's draining.
Yeah, not like my ass, just like my face.
But a little bit your ass.
A little bit my ass too. So it was clear she had an intellectual disability. Are we saying also intellectual disability? Genuine question.
Do you want to Google it?
I did Google. That's what it said. That's what Google said. But
okay.
So for purposes, we're going to say intellectual disability, intellectual differences.
Yeah.
At the time, they called this mental deficiency, and they categorized people into subcategories. And are you ready for these?
Are you going to say the R slur right now?
No.
Okay.
So that
But that was a thing.
oh yeah, that was.
Remember, that was a big thing with my grandma. Like, and again, it's just like time, like it's period typical ableism. That's not correct, but like, she means that to mean she meant she's dead. So if you're upset about what she did, don't worry.
Yeah,
she got
you can't
hers.
really talk to her about it.
Don't worry. She
got hers,
she
she
paid for
died.
it. She died.
She paid for it in death.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like it is so just like interesting how like the benchmark for what things mean changes. Where like when she would say that slur, she meant it genuinely as just being like a person with an intellectual disability.
Yeah,
she didn't mean it like a.
There were like goodwill charities.
Yeah,
with the R slur in them,
which is wild.
That was like even JFK's bill or whatever had the
Yeah.
R slur in it. Anyway, so the 3 categories were idiot, imbecile, and moron. I just had to throw that in there. Honestly, not even for like a laugh and a gag.
No, but
more
that's
for just, like,
insane.
that is where we're at.
So things are not great.
Things are not amazing. Things aren't great.
You have to stop screaming. Thank you.
The birds.
The bird is screaming at you. Okay,
I'm gonna cut together every time we go. So what are you guys doing?
What's up with y'all?
Just yelling at the birds.
Yeah.
Just kind of shouting in their direction.
Yeah.
So at 5, she started kindergarten, but her teachers like refused to pass her on to the 1st grade. They were like, she's not ready. So she had to retake kindergarten.
Okay.
Then she was sent to a very fancy private school, which started when she was in grade school.
So it's like
grade
first grade?
2. Sorry, grade 2.
Grade 2, okay.
Because she had to repeat. She finally repeated kindergarten, then she went to grade 1, and then repeated grade 1.
Okay.
And then I guess the parents were like, we got to start paying to push this girl forward.
Yeah.
Not help her out or get any sort of holistic education.
Well, because it's not actually about her. It's just how, like, it's really not really about your kids succeeding. It's about your kids reflecting on you.
Yeah, it's about your kid getting a little shiny medal.
Yeah.
So she was struggling so much that they took her to school and they schooled her at home.
Okay.
This is a lot of her moving from school to school. I'm going to warn you.
Yeah, that's already sad.
She was generally kind of like, I was trying to find a video of her on YouTube. Couldn't find it. Unsurprising. But she, like, in general, like, was very bubbly. She was beautiful.
Yeah.
But like generally kind of like uncoordinated, a bit heavy on her feet, like that kind of thing. Eunice, who's her sister, who was kind of like more of like an advocate for Rosemary, her legacy is interesting because I think that like through a modern lens, it's a bit savioristic and like
yeah, of course. Yeah.
But we can't, you can't discount the fact that like she did advocate for her sister more than her other siblings.
And when she had no advocates, like it's
So it's a tricky one, but Eunice,
it's complicated, yeah.
It's complicated, but Eunice said that she believed that Rosemary would have seizures because doctors would come to the house at random times to see Rosemary, and the other kids would be like whisked away and like hidden away and while they dealt with it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And Rose Kennedy kind of like, so as we discussed in other episodes, like Rose Kennedy, the mother, took very detailed notes on like everything about her kids.
Yeah.
So she would write
down
like
she had like little cards, like index
little
cards.
like index cards, like documenting like in diaries of like, Jack did this, Joe did this, they went to the dentist, they got this needle, like they got this, like they were sick this day, kind of all this kind of stuff. And Rosemary was kind of like notably not documented as much.
Jeez.
So it's kind of like, even though she arguably had like more medical issues than except maybe Jack would be comparative. But like, she obviously had like developmental delays and was being seen by doctors a ton. And Rose just like pointedly wasn't documenting any of it.
Yeah, which is pretty like emblematic of the feelings, I guess, towards these things, right? Like it's seen as something quite shameful. So it's something we're not going to document.
Let's hide it away. Let's not document it. Let's not make like historical written proof that like this was happening kind of thing. So in 1929, Rosemary was 11 years old, and she's sent to a school in Pennsylvania for the intellectually disabled. She settled in, but she started having like...
Is she verbal?
Yes.
Okay.
So again, I'm someone who... I understand, like, it is harmful to kind of like equate like disabilities as good and bad and like responsive and whatever. But like,
yeah, like functioning XYZ or whatever. Yeah.
She was like quite functional. Like she was like, you know, she was verbal, she would talk. She was for all intents and purposes like she sounds like she had like a mild intellectual disability.
Yeah, no, I just and again, like I agree with what you're saying of like
no, but it is problematic.
It's problematic to
know.
define people with intellectual disabilities by like how neurotypical they are, or like they're, you know, how close are you to being quote unquote like normal?
Don't worry, I just have Asperger's. Not autism.
Or whatever, right? Like, but I think it's important in this story to kind of just get an idea of it because like I don't know that sliding scale. It's like the just world complex, or this idea that like we believe that only good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people, and this idea that like, oh well, if you're just a good neurodivergent person, then your life won't be hard. Just be good and try and be like neurotypical people. But it's like that's obviously not true. Yeah, like it doesn't work. The system does not work for anyone.
For sure.
Yeah.
So
especially at this time.
Well, 100%. Like she has like learning disabilities. She's struggling and she's like behind other people. She's also, again, like she's living with the Kennedys, like this crazy, like high pressure family. In 1929, 11-year-old Rosemary was sent to a school in Pennsylvania for the intellectually disabled. So she settled in and was fine, but she would have like
it's like a boarding school.
Yeah, like a boarding, like she would live at these schools basically. Like her parents were just kind of like shuffling her away to different places. Awesome, normal, must have been helpful.
I'm sure your children love that.
Yeah, and she would have what we would call today like a meltdown, like a full just kind of like struggling to process things type of meltdown.
Well, I would get overwhelmed and have a meltdown every single time I went to sleepaway camp, and that was for a week, and that was in an environment where even though people maybe it was like 2010, so people weren't like fucking rocking it with like understanding of mental health and neurodivergence or whatever, but like it was still a better environment than like a place that's basically only job is to make me as neurotypical as humanly physically possible. Yeah, and it's where I live, by the way, and I'm 11, by the way,
and it's also like when we say it's a school for the intellectually disabled, like that just means that like the teachers are harsher and the punishments are stricter, and like
it's trying to again to mold these people into the it's trying to teach people how to mask basically, right? Like it's abuse, right? Like
it's abuse.
I know you guys are having such a fun time listening to this. It's just honestly what's so great about this story is how feel good it is.
How feel good and fancy free. Yeah. So at 15 she was moved to a convent school in Rhode Island. And
she was
better. It was a bit better. Actually.
Oh, okay.
It was a bit better.
I hear convent, and I'm like,
I know. Weirdly enough, she did better. I think in the convent
because do you think
in general.
Do you think the other school was just like so bad that like the convent at least it's like it's at least it's a convent and not like
I think it was kind of like Again, I'm just kind of speaking out of my own kind of assumptions, but like I think it's like if you're at a convent school, you're also learning kind of like skills and like you get responsibilities and chores and stuff. It's not just like act normal. It's like
it's like you learn skills,
how to clean the floor.
I mean, it's not great. Again, none of it's like fucking awesome, but
none of it was the care that she actually needed.
No,
but she was very like social during this part. Like she was doing well very socially. Like she had friends. She was bad at reading and math, and she was so like at 15, 16 years old, she was about at the level of like a 10-year-old. Yeah. So that's where she was at. After that, she was then moved to another school back in Brookline, closer to the family.
They're moving her around so much.
Well, yeah, because like she's just like
when she thrives and they're like, let's pull her out.
Well, and also just like they you know, like anytime a teacher's like, you should do this or like seek care for her, they're like, oh, well, we'll just send her somewhere else.
Yeah, of course.
They moved closer to her family and closer to Joe Jr., who was a freshman at Harvard at the time. And at one point he like took her out to like with his friends and stuff. Like he was like, let's go party, Rosemary. And so like she met all this like Harvard friends and they said that she was nice.
Hell yeah.
And like fun to be around. And it was interesting too because Joe Jr. at this time was like very pro like Hitler's sterilization.
Which is like, what an era to be in.
Yeah, like he literally wrote a letter that was like Hitler's sterilization of like the mentally disabled.
Rocks.
Like,
yeah, that's
oh my
great.
God, there was some quote, I should have written it down, but I was just like, you know, when you're like, ugh,
yeah, you don't want to think
again.
about that. Yeah,
but it was like, it will stop, it will, you know, cease to exist some of the worst specimens of men.
Yeah, we talked about that last episode.
Oh my God. Yeah, like exactly, where he was like, yep, let's just get rid of them.
Hitler's got some pretty good ideas. Like that was Joe Jr. That's not me. Don't take that out of context.
If I was Hitler's friend, I would have sat down and talked to him. I would have loved him better.
Hitler just needed a Four Loko.
Hitler needed a Four Loko and a blowjob for his one ball.
That's honestly, not to like put the onus on women, but I think that is true.
This is what happens, ladies, when you don't suck dick. Men
awful.
Become dictators.
That's awful.
Either cater to that dick or get a dick tater.
Potato.
A potato. We're joking, but it's kind of true.
Yeah, and that's not good. Like that's actually their
bad.
problem.
No,
that's
it's
not
their
our problem.
It's not women's problems.
But
it's
it is kind of crazy that that's like
that is.
Is that like you've seen that Caleb Heron clip where he's talking to Paul F. Tompkins and he's like, Elon Musk is like a 3 who had to get a bunch of surgeries to become a 6 who dreams of being an 8. He knows he's not making it to 10. And he's got an army of 2s.
Funny.
And it's just because the right girls didn't want to sleep with him.
No, it's weird.
I know. He wanted a hot queen's baddie.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to sleep with him because he's a fucking freak weirdo. And now we've got to pay for it.
Also, it's just like, it's men at that level of like attractiveness. Cause like I've seen pictures of Elon Musk and is like, cause when I was at Queens, it was before he really hit the crazy super hard. And so we were like, oh, this guy's cool. He's like saving the environment. And he went to Queens.
Yeah. That was back when he was just kind of doing robot shit.
Yeah. When he was like, I'm going to make a robot that's so hot.
Yeah.
But he was like perfectly fine looking. Like if he had acted normal.
But this is the problem with people like that all the time. It's like they want to uphold this like oppressive stature of hyper-femininity, hyper-masculinity. This is the correct way to look.
Yes.
When it's like no one cares. Like that's why it's so funny that like, you know, people who are on the left get this kind of like rep for being like, you know, blue-haired, whatever. And I'm like, sorry, y'all don't want to like you want to fuck somebody who looks like a fucking crazy Barbie. Like, that's on you.
Yeah, it's weird. Also, like, I don't know, based on studies, they also want to fuck the blue-haired person.
But that's this is the thing. It's like it's like people are just absolutely fucking rude to girls specifically that they want to fuck, but they hate that they want to fuck.
Yeah. Anyway. And on that note,
I'm like, but if I just do enough tangents, I don't have to hear about what fucking happens. If I just distract, it's like my subconscious is like, if I distract Blair,
we don't have to talk about Rosemary. So Rosemary would write to her parents a lot that she was working hard, what she was doing, and what she was wearing, and she like really wanted to like impress her father. Well, like she just really wanted to like, she wanted her dad to be proud of her, like he was all her siblings. And so she was like, you know, I'm working hard. I'm doing good. Like, you know, I did this. Like, it's really sad. And her family just doesn't fucking want to see her. It's so sad. She at this time also was going to see a doctor who would give her like sedatives and these like injections every week that were apparently like sex hormones that were from like the urine of pregnant women.
Okay, can I have what she's having?
But like apparently the regimen was going well.
What is it supposed to do?
I don't know.
Okay.
Chill her out, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like again, like her issue is that like, you know, like now we would just say like, oh, she's having meltdowns, like she's overstimulated.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. But they don't have the tools for that, so they're like, oh, we're just gonna sedate her.
Yeah, 100%.
Sedate.
Sorry. No, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So they kind of say to her at the school, they're like, we should keep her on these regimes to kind of like improve her quality of life and kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
let her live just the way she is. But her mother is very much like, no, we have to fix her. Like, we're going to keep sending her to different places until she's fixed, basically.
Oh, my God.
So at 18, she was moved to another school, this time in Manhattan. And then she went off on a tour of Europe with a companion. And the companion described her as like, oh, like she was very like daydreamy. Like she would like kind of like zone out like, in daydreams and whatever. And so again, back to this doctor who did the video, was saying that like she might have been having absence seizures. So like seizures where like you're not like seizing up, but like you just kind of like everything kind of stops. Like and it's like it's something that is very like associated with what Rosemary was probably dealing with. And then also like it is very often mistaken for daydreaming.
Yeah. I mean, also if you're constantly hyper stimulated and overstimulated, you then go into like hypo activity, you shut down.
Yeah. So interesting.
Oh my
so when she returned from Europe, she went back to the school to Manhattan and they didn't want her back. They were like, no. And so she went to the Sacred Heart Convent Academy.
Okay.
Where she is. I don't think she really, like, it's kind of whatever. This is just another school. Like, she just gets passed around in these schools, guys. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And then in 1938, Joe Sr. becomes ambassador to the UK.
Yeah.
So around this time, when he leaves for the UK and brings the family over to the UK, Rosemary spends 3 weeks in a hospital in Boston.
Okay.
They say that she was there for a checkup. I don't know about you, but my checkups are
3 weeks long?
20 minutes to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Not 3 weeks long, inpatient. Like, so I don't know what she was doing there. It sounds to me like her whole family was like, LOL, we're moving to England. And she had some type of like nervous breakdown.
Yeah, of course.
So dealing with a little acute anxiety. And then she moves to London with her family and she's presented as a debutante to the king. With her sister, Kennedy. And this is like the iconic photo of her being like, presented as a debutante. Because she is like very beautiful.
Yeah.
She sent to a finishing school in England, but this like didn't last, obviously. I think like the worst possible place she could have sent Rosemary at this point was to finishing school.
Yeah.
Learning how to like fold napkins and shit.
Fuck.
And curtsy. Oh, yeah, that was the other thing about, like, the debutante thing. Like, she did great at it. Like, she curtsied right. She, like, stumbled at one point. Like, she tripped over something, but, like, she pulled herself back together.
Hell
and,
yeah,
like,
girl.
did the curtsy. She did all the greetings and stuff like that. Like, she crushed it. And, like, British society was, like, enchanted by her.
They're like, who is this girl?
They were like, she's beautiful. She's cute. She's relatable. Love her. But then, like, it was only Kik who really got to kind of, like, you know, schlep around with the upper crust.
Yeah.
And she was carted off to, like, yet another school. Just, like, very much, like, hiding her.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that they even let her, like, debut in front of the king. But I think it's truly because, like, it was, like, a perfect appearance where, like, you didn't have to hear her, like, talk. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So she was then moved to the convent to the Assumption School in England. And they had just taken on new teaching methods of a name drop, Maria Montessori.
Okay.
So they've taken on this new teaching method of Montessori, which obviously we know now like Montessori schools are like extremely popular.
Yeah.
It's just like a very like gentle teaching method compared to like others. It's meant to like soothe kids more than just like
I know. I'm kind of obsessed. I feel like if I had a kid, I'd be like, even though all of the people I knew that went to Montessori schools went to high school and didn't know how to count.
Yeah, well,
I was like, I remember being like, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
But I kind of love that. I'm like, yeah, you don't need to count.
Fuck counting.
What's AI for?
AI's get a robot to count for you.
That's what I'm saying.
But so she flourished in this environment. Like she did extremely, extremely well.
Hell yeah.
And then war broke out. So World War II breaks out.
What?
Yes. I know. Oh my God, I thought you were being genuine. I was like, yeah, girl.
Yeah, guess what?
Yeah, girl.
Think about
World
the
War
year.
II. There was like a thread on TikTok. I went on TikTok for like truly an hour yesterday, which is longer than I've been on TikTok in years.
That's a lot, girl.
I know. I don't know what was happening to me, but there was a whole thread of people like confused about World War II, and I was like, all right, enough TikTok.
That's
today.
enough for me.
They were like, what do you mean? What do you mean high schoolers died in World War II? And everyone was like, what the fuck?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, yeah, they sent They send 18-year-olds over. Those are high schoolers.
People are really dumb. And if I actually think about it too much, I'll lose my brain.
I'm
like,
gonna start crying.
People have such a lack of interest and curiosity in anything.
It's crazy. So she stayed at the school in London while the family moved back to America. The school was moved from London out into the countryside.
Yeah.
And she's like striving. This is like the happiest period of her life. Like war is broken out and Rosemary's having a great time at the convent in Montessori method. She wasn't under
She's me in the pandemic. First couple months of the pandemic.
Truly, she's like
randomly thriving while the world is falling apart.
She's making whipped coffee while Hitler is bombing London.
Exactly.
Like, but it's like she's loving it because like she's not under this like wild kind of weird pressure from her family.
Yeah, she can just be herself.
Yeah, she's not getting like the weird shame, the weird pressure. She had a role, she had like a purpose, she had stuff to do, like she had things like a place that she was expected to be. She was like succeeding at the stuff she was told to do.
Oh yeah, girl.
She would take care of the kids in the garden, she would read to them, she would pick out the stories that like, you know, that she would tell the kids. And she also had like a selection of like different domestic duties. Like she would polish the silver. Like she was responsible. Yeah,
she had
for
shit to
putting
do.
away
She knew what her job was,
and she was doing it well.
Yeah,
and she was really, really happy. This is like truly like she's loving it.
Yeah,
she's loving the nuns, and they're also just like nice. Like the whole thing is like be gentle. Maybe don't just like
scream at them. Yeah.
So her father was worried about the war hitting Rosemary, and so he was like, "You have to come back to America," and he like carted her back to America.
But she's thriving.
Yeah. He's like, sorry. Also, like, yeah, he's kind of the enemy in this story. I hate to say, if you didn't know already.
Period. I mean, he's kind of the enemy, period. like,
yeah, kind of the period. So you have to imagine for Rosemary now, she's striving in England at the school that she loves for like the first time in her life, feeling like accepted and purposeful. She gets carted back to the States. She's living with her family basically for the first time since she was like a very, very young child.
Yeah.
So she's in a home she barely knows. Like it's everyone
else. And people
who
aren't proud of her and people who aren't treating her gently and and her needs aren't being met. Like she's not getting the tasks that she needs to do. She's not whatever.
She's staying at a house that she's never really lived in. She's going to Hyannisport, which again, we've talked about where like, you know, all day it was sports, fighting, political discussions, like all this stuff, like intense pressure all day long. And so something is like kind of like shifts in her brain. Also, it's like, anytime she like goes out, she can only dance with her brothers. Like she's like highly supervised. Like her sisters were like super watchful over her. Like she just like loses. She like gets a taste of freedom and like what it feels to live her own life. And then she loses it to the utmost degree. And something like switches in her. She gets like, she's described as like aggressively unhappy.
Yeah.
And she kind of takes a turn for the violent.
Yeah, of course. Well, it again, it's this thing of like, a lot of times, like, anger is an emotion that's developed when you're quite young because your boundaries are being crossed.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, if you're a child whose boundaries were crossed a lot because you couldn't communicate them or things like that, or because your parents weren't respectful of them, then that can really shut you down in adult life.
For sure.
And, like, I can imagine her being, like, finally kind of piecing together this life that she's really happy with, and then all of a sudden having all of those boundaries crossed and not respected at all.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you aggressive. Like that's what any human being, that's how anyone would react.
Yeah. So it's not great. She's getting like to the point where she's having like massive meltdowns. She would break things, she would hit people. She was possibly having like epileptic, like the evidence for her also being epileptic is like pretty strong.
Yeah.
She's getting violent. She's getting upset. She's also behaving in like weird ways. Whereas before, like she was always sociable, like nice, kind of like, you know, like very much like happy to be there kind of thing. Like she kind of just starts acting like straight up weird and kind of like off-putting. Yeah. Like she's just like, she's unhappy. She's overstimulated.
She's not doing well, yeah.
Obviously, she was like so stressed. She's screaming. She's cursing. She's like randomly like erupting in like extreme anger, like out of nowhere kind of thing. One day she also kind of out of nowhere attacks Honeyfitz, her grandfather.
Sorry, I really forgot that was his name.
I know. So
holding space for what's happening.
But like
Honeyfitz is a crazy name.
Honeyfitz.
honey fits wear it.
And so her mother's like, okay, that's it. We're sending you to a summer camp. And she's like, oh, great. I'm going to go there and be like a junior counselor. And she writes to her father like, oh, like I'm going to be a junior counselor at this. I'm going to work with kids. And then it was like not the case at all. The summer camp she went to, she was meant to have like one-on-one supervision the entire time she was there. So it was like she thought she was getting kind of like the freedom that she had at the convent again, but it wasn't the case. Her mother didn't tell the camp about any of the challenges that Rosemary faced.
Bro.
So the people at the camp were sort of like, huh?
Yeah, do you remember when we were, because me and Blair famously met during the Second City summer camps,
Mm-hmm.
and the way, and I want to punch these parents in the fucking head. Like, I want to drop kick them.
Oh my God.
They would have kids who would have, in some way, shape, or form, they'd be like neurodivergent.
Mm-hmm.
And they just, there's a sheet where you're supposed to fill out when you're signing your kid up, like, just let us know.
Yeah.
So we can,
we can be ready.
Yeah. And it's not like, there's no shame in the game of it. It's literally just being like, we just like need the counselors to know so the counselors are prepared. So when your kid starts acting a certain way, they're not like, why?
Yeah.
Because again, like if you are dealing with a kid who is neurodivergent, you understand that those boundaries being crossed is a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot worse. Like it is a lot just worse for them because then they feel horrible.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if I don't know, and then I'm like, well, no, you have to come to the park with us. And then they melt down. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, it's like, what have I done?
I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, exactly. If I knew that you had like a different consideration going on.
Then I would treat that consideration differently.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't believe how often parents would not say anything. And again, it's like, it's not shameful.
No, it's crazy
You're
too.
creating
Also,
this culture of shame around your child.
and they're gonna feel that for the rest of their lives.
That's what's so, it's
awful.
insane where it's like, no one cares. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we just want to know. It was so horrible.
Also, like, she's fully a grown woman at this point too,
Yeah.
where it's just like, you're not even letting her, like, you're not even giving her the possibility of advocating for herself.
Yeah.
You're just saying like, no, we're writing her off. After 3 weeks, the camp organizers ask to have her removed. Her mother refuses to come get her, so the camp organizers have to take her back to New York themselves because her mother's just like, no, I'm not coming. So she starts at another school in Philadelphia. She like writes a letter to her family begging them to stay in touch. Just like sad fucking shit,
this
like
sucks, man.
Grace Kelly's also at the school at this time. That's just like a fun fact.
Okay.
This school claimed to have like also a Montessori method, but like Rosemary just like wasn't taking to it. So I don't know if they just like didn't do it well or if Rosemary was just kind of like beyond that point, because like, obviously she's just been like in a traumatizing
years
environment.
and years of trauma. Yeah.
Yeah. She went into like a super steep decline there to the point where they were talking about like sending her to a sanatorium to live because like she was just so kind of like at her wit's end.
Yeah.
Not doing well. And instead of going to a sanatorium, she goes to St. Gertrude's School of Arts and Crafts in Washington, D.C. for children with intellectual disabilities.
Long name.
And look, I'm never going to be in favor of a sanatorium, but sometimes I'm like, maybe we should have just sent her somewhere she could have rested instead of forcing her into another school.
Yeah, it's hard because like, yeah, I agree with you. Like these environments were not positive, but these other environments were equally as bad and bad because they're ill-equipped in all ways to deal with people who have differing needs, right? So it's like, why can't she just chill?
Yeah.
Why can't we just let her chill and like hang out and she does some jobs and she just like rocks and she gets to have her own kind of a little bit of like control as opposed to being like, no, go to school.
Yeah, go to school and
sucks.
someone's going to fix you. And also like be reminded every single day that like you are not up to par with where people think you should be.
Yeah.
Instead, like, like, again, I'm not sitting here being like they should have sent her to the sanatorium, but maybe they should have.
Well, the problem is that they don't listen, right?
No.
So it's like they keep moving her around when like it seems like obviously at the time the way that like our knowledge of like psychology and all these different things was like quite bad.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't even listening to what they were saying at the time.
No, and the other thing is like she's like 21 or 22 years old. She's at schools for children still.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like they're trying to find a different place where she could strive. Like she was doing well in these convents, Like get the girl,
send her back to
a nunnery.
Yeah, get thee to a nunnery, please.
So her outbursts become more frequent. She would sneak out. She would like yell at the nuns. They would regularly find her like walking down the street in the middle of the night, like at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And she would like explain how she got there and it would just like make no sense.
Yeah.
Like it just wouldn't add up at all. The nuns were concerned that she was like out seeing men, and they were concerned about her getting pregnant.
Yeah.
There's also like there was no consideration that she might have been like sleepwalking, which again is like associated with like epilepsy and learning disabilities.
Oh wow.
Which is also probably what was happening to her with like these nonsensical explanations. Around this time, Joe Sr. resigns from his position.
Yeah.
Again, this is when he says that democracy has fallen in England.
And maybe America.
So he's pretty dishonored. He is, you know, now back in America and focused on different things, i.e. Rosemary.
Yeah.
So that's where we are in the timeline.
Okay.
To give you an idea. And Rosemary's behavior is getting worse. And so here we get into the stuff. I was going to say good stuff, but it's
simply not.
It's not good. So around this time, a newspaper article comes out that they see about a new procedure that helped problem people, quote unquote, turn into like useful members of society.
Great.
It's by this doctor, and you can look him up. Honestly, like a lot of the research I was looking at really kind of focused in on him. I don't really feel like giving him a platform.
No,
but like,
he can fucking kick rocks. Let's just move on.
Yeah, exactly.
Burn in hell.
It is like contextually interesting to learn about him, but I don't feel like platforming him when we're talking about Rosemary.
Yeah.
But so the like new procedure is a lobotomy, and it's this idea of like basically like fucking with people's frontal lobes so that their behavioral issues are cured. And the way that they say it is like, oh, there's like, you know, they are stressed and angry, and then they get this lobotomy and they have this like sunny disposition, like they don't care anymore. And the guy even said about his own work, he was like, people have a lobotomy and they come out with like a bleached personality, which is a crazy thing to say about something that you've invented. Like, give me a fucking break. The reasons for seeking a lobotomy for her are kind of unclear because at the time, a lot of lobotomies were geared towards people with like severe depression or like schizophrenia, kind of like under the guise of like, you know, this is helping kind of ease the pain of actually going through the schizophrenia or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Or women who were going through like severe menopausal depression where like they just couldn't function at all. But they sought out a lobotomy for her. So basically, to summarize what was like, to your question, like what was actually going on with her, she most likely had like a mild to moderate intellectual disability that was like exacerbated by epilepsy.
Yeah.
And like an unstable living environment. And then like coming back from England kind of like broke her a bit.
Well, yeah, I can't imagine moving around that much. I think that would break my brain, and I'm living in a time period in which people have a much greater understanding of like the things people are going through.
Yeah.
But the thought of moving around that much and having no stability is like horrific to me. Like it sounds genuinely terrible. Hellish and horrific.
Yeah. So her father decides to go ahead with the lobotomy, and Rosemary was operated on in November 1941 when she was 23 years old.
Oh my God, that's so young.
Yep. So she would have been conscious. She would have been strapped to a table. She would have been given a local anesthetic to her scalp. And if you want to know the rest of the procedure, you can honestly look it up because
please don't tell me.
Almost vomited. So during the procedure, something goes wrong. So during the procedure, they make you like recite like the alphabet, like the months of the year, like stuff like that. And at one point in the procedure, she just stops talking. She goes like completely silent, and like she doesn't speak again for like a very, very long time. And so basically her lobotomy is botched. Her abilities of like anything are reduced to like basically 2 years old. She couldn't walk, she couldn't talk, and she needed full nursing care, like at all times. After like months and months of extremely hard work on Rosemary's part, she was able to move around and say a few words. This is an interesting kind of question that it comes back to when you read about Rosemary is like, was her lobotomy a genuine attempt to help her, or was it just trying to quiet her and get her out of the way so that like the other kids could achieve the stuff they wanted to achieve? Probably, realistically, it was like some type of combination of both. I have a hard time that like believing that like parents would just write off their kid, like purposely put their child in such like an awful position.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's probably a bit of both. I think at least the conscious choice on their part is not that. But it's very obvious that subconsciously so much of this and so much of like ableism in general is motivated by this idea of like, we don't want to deal with you.
Yeah.
Dealing with you and how you are mismatched for this fucking crazy world we've created that we can't really deal with, by the way. But like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. That's so much of it, right? And when you think about historically like electroshock therapy or lobotomies or things like that, especially when they're like exponentially obviously administered to women and obviously like exponentially like botched and administered to people of color, there's like a real kind of focus on just being like, we don't care.
We don't care, and
care
we want
about
you to
your problems.
sit down and shut up.
I don't want to fix this problem. I want you to stop complaining.
Yeah.
And that is the kind of thing of like, you think about even now, just this idea of like a crazy woman, it's not gone away. Like, there's so much focus even still just being like, oh, my crazy ex, these women are crazy, these women are whatever. And it's like, no, there is no consideration to like why people are like that. Because she was doing well when things weren't exacerbated by the way her family treated her, because she wasn't living up to this false, this false benchmark that not even the kids who were probably more neurotypical were living up to, But it's like, when you think about the intersection of like mental illness, mental health, neurodivergence, and like womanhood, it's really hard to swallow. It really makes you just think about what people think about women in general and just being like, your purpose is to like, please shut up.
Like, please shut up. You're bothering us. You're preventing us from moving on.
Yeah. And that's why you get so many people who are autistic who are women who are never get diagnosed because like they mask.
They just mask their whole lives and that's how they live.
Oh.
So
you decided to bring a crazy energy to improv practice after this?
Yep. Thank God we don't actually have to improvise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that there probably was a semblance of like they thought they were genuinely helping her, but also like they wanted her to sit down and shut up because she was getting in the way of like a greater ambition, and that is like the tragedy of this story.
Well, and those things go hand in hand, right? Like they probably thought that her not acting within the bounds of what they deemed to be okay was bad for her, even though it's like her care is not front of mind, but I believe it's misguided. But I think it's also like these thoughts are because of the general belief and thoughts around mental health at this time, right? It's like horrible.
So after that, her father has her sent to an institution in New York. She's there for a little bit, and then he sends her like 1,000 miles away to an institution in Wisconsin. That's where she spends the rest of her life. He has a private house built for her. Like a mile out from the institution. Her parents never visit her, and her siblings weren't told where she was for another 20 years.
20 years, man.
They basically acted as if she didn't exist. Her mother never mentioned her or in her diaries, like the way that she mentioned her other kids. Like there was like a notable absence of Rosemary, but like the nuns took care of her. She had a dog that she would like go on walks with. It was like, that was her life now, like just with like, basically needing constant care. The family claimed that she was a recluse. That was the story. They were like, oh, she's a recluse. She's not around. After JFK was elected, Eunice, who was her sister, wrote an article about Rosemary, but it was only after Joe Sr. has a stroke and is ironically left unable to walk or speak did the children learn of Rosemary's whereabouts. Wow. Was when they were told. And so after he died in 1969, she was gradually reincorporated into the family and like brought to events and different things at different times. And then she died at 86 in 2005 of natural causes.
2005?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man. That's so recent.
Yeah. And we see in the Kennedy family, like, again, I was going to talk more about this, but then just reading about it, I was like, I really want to like shy away from like platforming anyone too much who is not Rosemary.
It's her story. We should talk about these things that have obviously happened to her, but I have no interest in like making these meta part of her story.
But like it should be noted that like, you know, Eunice becomes like a disability advocate. She starts summer camp for intellectually disabled children, different like differing abilities, where they play games and compete and stuff, which eventually turns into the Special Olympics. So she's crediting with kind of founding the Special Olympics in Rosemary's honor kind of thing. And JFK does introduce legislation that is, you know, intended to improve the lives of disabled communities. Again, both of them complicated legacies of, you know,
saviorism
of
and
saviorism.
and it's hard because like obviously there's like the right energy behind these things, but like are they
yeah,
the best? Are they? And again, also we have such a tendency to like center neurotypical or you know, able-bodied
like
voices.
look how much they helped,
guys. They didn't have to do this.
Look how much Sandra Bullock helped the kid from The Blind Side.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You're welcome. So, but yeah, it should be noted that like, as much as it is, you know, her family could have done more. I think when it comes to the siblings, like they all were her brothers and sisters, and I think it was a severe disservice to hide where she was from them for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so that's that.
Great.
And fuck lobotomies.
Yeah, Joe Senior, you can rot.
Joe Senior rot in
You
hell.
can rot.
Honestly.
By the way,
Honestly, Joe Senior rot. Go
Rot.
rot in hell.
would you have a let's make this tragedy about us?
Yeah, you know, okay, let's lighten it a bit.
Okay.
Let's
make this tragedy
about
about
us.
us. It's a part of the podcast where we take this tragedy and make it about us.
Okay, you
Loving
go.
that.
Okay, you join a convent. It's an
Yep.
amazing convent. You're having an amazing time.
Yeah.
Where is the convent, and what's your job at the convent?
Okay, I'm torn between a kind of like English countryside moment or like Costa Rica, like warm weather.
Yeah, cool.
Because if it's warm weather, it's like my job is some kind of like I've got to like sort something or just kind of do like some kind of admin work, but then I can just go to the beach.
That's cool.
Or if it's in the English countryside, it's some kind of like there's some kind of, you know, what are we exporting at this convent? Is it like coffee? Is it whatever? Like I'm helping with that. What about you?
Okay.
You would have slayed in a convent, by the way.
I know.
We've
Oh,
talked about
God.
this.
I can't even.
Nobody would have eaten more at a convent
I would
than you.
ate.
Because
sat down.
my great aunt, who's like 96, she was in a convent. She was a nun.
That's so cool.
Because that's how she could like get education from Ireland or whatever. This is what I think.
Well,
I'm like, you're a lesbian.
I would be
a lesbian. Because also, you know, it's genetic, right? Like we've kind of got to the point where we understand that like, isn't sexuality in some ways genetic?
Yeah.
So I'm like, who in my family's bi?
No, 100%.
Which one of you freaks is actually bi?
Which one of you freaks is bi?
But she kind of ate at a convent in the way that I think you would, where she's like, she just wanted to like not be around men and like read books and chill out.
I think I would read books. I think I'd bottom. I think. Maybe I'd switch. Who knows? Maybe I bottom.
Probably bottom.
I'd probably read a lot of books. Bottom.
Yeah, me too. Not bottom. I don't
write
know.
Poetry. I think I would. Irish. I think Ireland.
Yeah, I see that
I think
for
the
you.
coast. I think honestly, I'm picturing just like the Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah, I like that.
And I am like we export like wool sweaters.
Ooh, chic.
And so I kind of like shave the sheep. Like I'm kind of step one.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm step one. I don't think I knit. I think I shave the sheets, but then I make stained glass, and I bring that to like little craft fairs.
Yeah, I want to change mine.
No,
I want to do
yours is
something with
really
animals.
good. Animals,
But there's
yeah.
also going to be animals in there.
I think. Oh my god. Okay, wait. Okay, I don't think this animal is native to Ireland at all, but it's my fantasy, and you can fuck off. Alpacas. I think I'm alpacas. I'm dealing with alpacas.
That's iconic.
Alpaca sweaters. Alpaca wool. What are you doing with animals?
I don't really know, but I want them to be there. I'm kind of wrecked, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us on this.
Yeah,
and guys, you know what?
Nothing. You know, thank you for being here. Oh,
and I will say on a serious note, like we strive to, you know, bring these things into conversation, learn a little bit, have a little fun. But in this case, I really would encourage you to go and learn about this, because I do think that like I was really reflecting on like, you know, the whole idea of like lobotomies, and this treatment has become like a bit of a punchline in some cases. And like, as much as like I do think that there, you know, is a time and place for a dark joke, I think that like
you should understand the weight of the thing that you're actually saying.
And I didn't even really understand how prevalent it was or just how they were throwing it out. And like this fuck ass doctor with a just wanted to be famous. Disgusting. But I would really encourage you to read up on it if you're in that mental space. And that's all.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Love you.
Love you. Take care of yourself.
Bye.
We'll see you soon.
Take care. Bye.